Good morning. It's Monday morning, and today we read Matthew 15, 1 through 9. Then Pharisees and scribes came to Jesus from Jerusalem and said, "Why do your disciples break the tradition of the elders? For they do not wash their hands when they eat." He answered them, "And why do you break the commandment of God for the sake of your tradition? For God commanded, 'Honor your father and your mother,' and 'Whoever reviles father or mother must surely die.' But you say, 'If anyone tells his father or mother, 'What you would have gained from me is given to God,' he need not honor his father. So for the sake of your tradition you have made void the word of God. You hypocrites! Well did Isaiah prophesy of you when he said, 'This people honors me with their lips, but their heart is far from me. In vain do they worship me, teaching as doctrines the commandments of men.'" So the Old Testament law has lots of rules about things, and in Exodus there are rules for when the priests go into the temple to sacrifice, they're supposed to wash their hands and feet in a certain way. Exodus 30, 17, something following. The Pharisees apparently had expanded that and pushed that forward to say, whenever you gather to eat, you should wash your hands. Now, this is not the, "Ooh, my hands are covered with mud and gunk from the highway, I better wash them," sort of healthy public health kind of hand washing that we do. This was a ceremonial washing to purify yourself before you took your food, which again is not a bad idea, but and that's what they did. And it was a very ritualized sort of washing. You know, if you've ever watched TV, I'm sure some of you have, you've seen the doctor shows where they wash from the tips of their fingers all the way to their elbow, and they hold their hands like this and put the gloves on. It's a very ritualized kind of washing so that you get your whole hand disinfected. And so that's kind of what the Pharisees were after. You have to clean yourself before you eat. And your disciples aren't doing that, Jesus. Why not? Why don't they obey the rules? And Jesus comes back and says, "Why don't you obey the rules? Because you are taking what you should be using for your parents and giving it to God, and sort of finding a loophole there so that you can enjoy the money that you have without taking care of your parents." And that's essentially what he's saying. It gets a little more complicated, but that's basically what he's after. And then he quotes Isaiah, from I think it's chapter 1, where Isaiah, he says it several places, but, these people don't worship me, or they think they're worshiping me, but their hearts aren't really in it. Their heart is far away from me, so they're worshiping, yeah, but they're not really worshiping. So what do we learn here? Jesus doesn't have a lot of time for human traditions. All these rules that the Pharisees make up are just that. They're rules they made up, and we can break them if necessary. I remember a time many years ago when I was at a camp with a bunch of our youth, and we had been told, this was our campsite down here, and other campsites, other groups were in other campsites, and we'd been basically told to stay in our campsite. So the last evening, a bunch of us had walked up the hill out of the campsite to an open space in front of the dining hall, and there you could see millions and millions of stars. This was way out in the woods in East Tennessee, and you could just see the stars, the Milky Way, the whole thing. And it was early August, and there was one of the meteor showers was going on. So I said, "I'm going to sleep here." And the kid said, "But you can't, you can't." And I said, "What do you mean I can't?" "It's against the rules." I said, "Well, what's the purpose of that rule? It's to keep me from going to another campsite and bothering another group. I don't see any groups up here. The worst thing that's going to happen is I'm going to oversleep and be awakened in the morning with everybody standing around me in a big circle singing the breakfast song which didn't happen, thankfully. And so we spent the night there watching the meteors fly by until we fell asleep. So some rules are, you can break, and some rules you shouldn't break. And knowing the difference, finding the difference, navigating your way through all these rules is a part of the daily challenge of human life. And so we find our way through these rules, and Jesus says, you don't have to obey all these rules. What you have to obey is the Spirit that leads you to the rules. And the Spirit says, honor the Lord your God. And he's not so concerned about how many times you scrubbed your fingers as he is about whether your heart is in the right place. So let's get our hearts in the right place, people. And after that, I think we'll be fine. So have a great Monday. We'll see you tomorrow.